beg you. I loved your mother since the time I was a boy.
And yet you betrayed her.
I loved you. More than anyone.
And yet you betrayed me. When you brought me back to Winterfell, you told me there's no justice in the world, not unless we make it. Thank you for all your many lessons, Lord Baelish. I will never forget them.
Hey everyone, Mac is back. Today we're going to talk about the free-to-play commanders in the Siege of Winterfell, and we're going to do the formations of the cavalry, the infantry, and the spearmen. So let's get to it. Alright, so here is how this is going to work. The upper right hand corner, I have the spear, all the spear commanders jumbled here together. On the upper left hand corner, I have all the cavalry commanders together as well. Down here in the bottom right, I have all the infantry commanders, and then I added in Simon because you can get him free to play, and he does have a pretty good skill with some total attack that might be worth adding into these lineups. So let's begin with the spear. So with the spearmen, I would suggest first looking at Hector, and Hector can be or is free to play because you can get him from the event that comes around, where you can get medals from him. I believe my free to play alt has him at not quite to gold yet, but highly focused on him. If I were you, my alt is a bow account, so that's why I haven't been focused on them. So I think as a free to play, you'll be able to get Hector to gold. So if you do have Hector to gold, I mean, looking at him at gold, he has 320% spear defense and attack, plus cav health reduction. His skill reduces the counterattack damage taken by the commanded troops by 80% for 5 seconds. And the way that I can explain that best is say essentially that you're being attacked and by infantry, so that would be a counterattack. So they're attacking you by 500%. Well, if they're attacking you by that, then their counter would be double that, so that would be another 500%. So if you take that 500% and you take 80% of it away, you're down to 100%. So that's pretty significant. So instead of them attacking you at 1,000%, it's 600%. So that's quite significant amount of reduction there. So I like that. I like that effect plus his skills. If we look at Uma, you can get her free to play from some of the events as well. And so actually her overall isn't too bad because she gives 240% spear attack here, plus she's going to give 5 seconds of 900% attack plus damage here as well. So I do like this. I'm not going to include her in this lineup because I don't think a lot of people have a lot of free to play have her gold, and the drawback to her is that she's not awakened yet. So she's only bringing 11,000 troops, where these other ones, if you have them awakened, you should be able to get them to the 21,000 like Gorel is here. So I would not recommend her. Looking at Varys, increases the normal attack damage by 30% for 5 seconds, and then spear attack, that's really not significant, 30% for 5 seconds, and the 240% spear attack is nice, but still not very relevant. Looking at Arsalan and Gorel, they're very similar in the sense that they both give spear attack of 240. Arsalan does give the health, and Gorel gives the defense, and their skills are the same as well, 1200% health and 1200% defense. So those will spike off, so be able to protect you and absorb some of that damage. So overall, I think what you're going to do is these three here. If you don't have Hector gold quality, you still might, even at purple quality, I still might have him in there. I still think that would be do quite well. But if you don't have him, I think at that point you probably go to Varys, unfortunately, and just you have to use his ability in there, his skill, which is decent. An alternative to that, depending on how you have these as free to play, Simon might be someone you want to throw in there because he reduces that control status effects for 5 targets. It's only 2 seconds, but still, I think that's something to be noted. So I think right now, I think you're taking away Varys, and I think you're taking away Uma, and this is going to be your spear lineup. Now let's talk about infantry commanders, and we'll start off by eliminating 2 of these 6 commanders you see here. We'll start with Barrett as the first one, increases the counterattack damage dealt by commanded troops by 40% for 5 seconds, and he gives health and defense. So really not that great. The counterattack damage isn't bad. It's nice. It's a pretty good increase. I just like to see some attack in there somewhere where you're giving some better, just some better power. The counterattack does that actually. So increasing the counterattack damage by 40%. So that actually could be significant. But if you're not doing any counterattack damage, if your infantry are going into cavalry or other infantry, then you're not. It's not helping you at all. So or even bows. So you really have to be very specific with that. So I wouldn't like that. Like that commander either. Look at Haley. I don't know if they updated this. As far as I know, this was the last time that I was in Siege of Winterfell, and they still don't have any kind of skill here, just the attack. So, and even if they did, it would have to be a pretty OP skill for that to be even considered. Now, looking at these last 4 here, you can't go wrong, in my opinion. You can pick any of them that you want. I think you probably need to have Feast and Chris in there, just because they both give attack. He gives health and he gives defense, similar to what we saw in the spear lineups. And if we look at the other 2, we have Tyrion, which gives 120 defense, 120 attack, where Arya gives 120 attack and 240 defense. So either or, they're very similar in their buffs. Looking at their skills, though, she does skill damage of a coefficient of 450, and he prevents the wounded soldiers from recovering it for 5 seconds. So you could pick either one. I mean, you might not have Tyrion as a free-to-play, depending how far in the game is. You might not have him gold. If you don't, then you have to go with Arya, I think, at that point. And something also to consider is Feast is not awakened, like I shown before. So if you want to get more troops in the battle, which is highly recommended, then Tyrion might be the one you might want to leave Feast out. You do miss out on some of that attack there, but he does make up for it just a little bit. So I think overall we'll probably take Feast out, and if you have Tyrion gold, which it's a lot easier to get him there, I think those are the 3 commanders that you're going to be using for infantry. So now we look at our final formation of cavalry, and there's no way to sugarcoat this at all. This formation is going to be fairly weak. Looking at what you have to deal, what you have to work with here, you're looking at Russell, who's going to be increasing skill damage for 5 seconds, 30%, and he does give cav attack, which is nice. Rob in there, he's cav defense and health, and he's giving 1200% defense for 5 seconds. Like these just aren't very good. I'm not even going to go over some of them. You can see that Mango here without a skill at all. I do like what he has down here, but I'm sure they'll update this. And when they do, maybe you'll be able to tell right off the bat who you want if you want to put him in there. I'm assuming you want to put him in just for his attack and defense, but for our sake right now, until that's updated, I would say no. So get rid of that. Something to consider, as we talked about Arya and Tyrion. If you're not going to use one of them or either of them in your infantry lineup, you probably use one, but you could use the other one here in this lineup as well. And also there's Simon too, because if you have Simon gold, 120% total attack is pretty good to be able to throw in this lineup, because it's not going to have a whole lot of attack, unfortunately, unless you are getting it by other means and not by the commanders. So looking at these here, getting the 1200% defense, 1200% health. I do like those because they can proc off, kind of back to back. So that's pretty good. They're both awakened commanders as well, so that's nice. Looking at Russell versus, Gene. Gene's giving defense. He's giving attack. I always love attack. And increases skill damage dealt, and this one increases skill damage taken. So it's pick one, half dozen the other. I'm going to probably get rid of that one and just go by these 3 here. And you could throw Simon in there again if you wanted to. He always has that option as well. And I said one of the infantry one if you were going that route too. So here we are with the final results. If you're a free-to-play player and you are using all 3 of the formations other than bows, then you're going to have, I would recommend Arslan, Gorel, and Hector. The actual order actually be Hector, Gorel, and Arslan. I think that's probably one of the best ways to go about that. And then down here at the infantry one, probably going to put in Arya first, and then maybe Chris, and then maybe Tyrion a little later on. His skill is actually pretty good, so you could mix this up if you wanted to, but I like those 3 commanders. And then cavalry, like I said, it's a very difficult one to put together, but I'm probably going to do it with maybe Rob, and then Merrill, and then Russell, something like that. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you want to do. It's a little more difficult with the free-to-play when it comes to this event, the way that they've changed things up just a little bit, but hopefully you can get in there and you can battle and do pretty well. So till next time, Mac out.